Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and because next week is spring break, and because we're going to spring forward clockwise this weekend, let's bring in a couple of spring coaches, shall we? How about Josh Harden, the head coach of Greyhound Track and Field, and Amanda Fiefel from Greyhound Softball? I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Really good showing for the Greyhound Rodeo squads. We had a young man that almost scored points in the men's events. We had Shacey Marr that scored 45 points by herself. Had a really good showing, finished sixth overall. We had a Greyhound baseball. They took 3 out of 4 from Cameron University. Greyhound softball had a successful game on Sunday. More about that later. Greyhound women's basketball swept the series against WT this year. They beat the Lady Buffs twice. Greyhound guys not quite so lucky. The first time we played, we lost by 2 in overtime. The second time we played them last week, we lost by 2 in double overtime. Well, that will finish up an Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Josh Harden from Greyhound Track and Field right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring back to the set the head coach of Greyhound Track and Field, Josh Harden. And Coach, welcome back to SportsLook.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the reason we're having you here, not just because you're a great guy and we like interviewing you, but it's the transition point in the track and field season when you go from the indoor to looking towards the outdoor. But from what I understand, we've got some people that aren't quite done with the indoor season.
Yeah. Jamoy Jackson, our 400-meter hurdler. He's actually a 400-meter specialist. He's actually our school record holder now. Is going to set to compete next weekend, so should be pretty exciting.
So talk a little bit about the indoor part of the season. I saw from time to time the results of the meets. It sounded like you had a lot of kids that set personal bests.
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty solid season this year. We got a lot of new faces. A lot of young ones, but also some that returned that was very pivotal for us outdoor last year who kind of came on late. So it was actually a pretty solid season. We had a couple school records go down, one being the 400 meter dash by Jamoy Jackson, and then we had 2 freshman hurdlers break both school records, one female and one male, and then had our whole hurdles group was pretty much new besides our multi-athlete that was here last year. And all of them dipped under the previous school record at some point this year. So we had a lot of fireworks, but also a lot of growth and development, just being a really young team. So, in hindsight, everything is clicking for us really well. And, we're excited for this portion to be able to train and get ready for outdoor season.
For people that aren't really all that familiar with track and field, there are basically 3 groups. You've got your sprinters, you got your distance, and you've got your field event. And which aspect of the track and field program graded out the highest in your estimation?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
It is midterm time, so we got to assign grades.
I felt like our sprint group has been solid all year. And I mean, I think we've had some of our bigger highlights kind of come from that group. I think that's kind of been, a group that's really done really well and kind of established the tone for our program. We have a young but small mid-distance group that has done some really solid things and been progressing pretty well. But I would have to say our sprint group's probably done a little bit of the heavy lifting. Although, into our conference championship, we had, on the women's side, we had 2 girls in both the long jump and the triple jump final, and had 2 girls that missed both final, by maybe 3 inches, So, we had a lot of good things, and it's hard to really point to one event group that really was, standing above because, like I said earlier, our young hurdle group has came in and unhinged top 5 program history records and school records. So, it's been, it's been hard to pinpoint which group is really clicking and can be head above, everyone else. It's kind of been, all around. We've seen some good things and some good progression. So.
Your male hurdler in particular is an interesting story because he's not just good. He's got a national record in his home country.
Yeah, yeah. So he was somebody that, we were ecstatic to get and sign, and he's came in and lived up to it. He's ran sub 8 seconds over the 60 hurdles, which is placed him 20th in the country amongst all Division II athletes. So we just missed making it to the national meet by 2 spots. So that was really tough to swallow, getting that news today. But yeah, he's really come in and asserted himself as, somebody that's going to be, a top contender and top 3, top 4 spot in the conference. So, and then potentially in that top, that top 5%, that top 20 in the country. So.
I had a chance to get to know him, and I believe his first name is pronounced Strahiha. I'm not even going to try his last name, but,
yeah,
but he's good.
Yeah. He's a solid kid and solid academic, and he's a student of the sport. So, he's a joy to be around. We happened to go to a meet where there was a professional at, and he got a picture, and he was one of the few kids that was like stoked to be like, do you guys know who this man is? And, he's a real track junkie, so he's a joy to be around and a joy to train.
How did you get him here?
Oh man, it was part of a recruiting service that was, helping student athletes in other countries kind of find, institution here. So, I kind of put my hat in the ring and started the recruiting process, and was a benefit to be the spot that he wanted to come and continue his career. So, he's here and we're trying to capitalize on it.
Let's talk a little bit about one individual who, for people who follow track and field that are going to be familiar with her name, Grizel Scarlett's pretty good.
Yeah. She's somebody that is a competitor. Once she gets to the line and get in those blocks, she wants to be that girl. It was fun to watch her, go and two-peat, and maintain her crown as the LSC champ in the 60-meter dash. So. Our goal is set as trying to do the same thing outdoor. This year we didn't have exact season we wanted, so we won't be able to go to the national meet. But, she's somebody that, still proud of, and we're still got a lot to work for. So setting our sights to the outdoor season, and we got another title to defend in the 100 meters. So
it's hard enough to win one Lone Star Conference championship to repeat. I honestly can't remember more than a handful of Greyhound male or female athletes that have done that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, until we go back into the, the 70s and pull up that crew that just kind of demolished everything. I don't know if there's many that back to back it. So, to be able to do that is a big feat. And she's probably going to be, one of the few to be able to do it because, as in this conference, it's extremely tough to do that. And somebody somewhere is getting a kid that's just as fast, if not better. So to be able to do that and step on the track that day and defend it and with poise like she did, it's incredible.
Yeah, I've seen years when WT, national champs, Angelo State, it's a really good conference for track and field.
Yeah, and our goal is to continue to progress and compete in this conference and compete at a high level. And we're doing that, and we're slowly building up that team that's gonna, we're gonna be sprinkled all over the finals and conference championship opportunities. So, that's the goal, is to compete at this level and compete at a high level. So.
I always like the underdog stories. I like the kids because, I expected Grizel to be good. There wasn't much drama involved. Who would you say is the kid that in the fall you didn't really see being a competitor that was going to score points that has really had an incredibly good indoor part of the season?
Oh man, Braden Munoz was a kid that came in. He's a New Mexico native as well. That's came in and really just continues to progress over the 60 hurdles. He came in and scored some points that we thought we may not have gotten, and continued to develop. He's sitting second in school history in the hurdles, right behind Strahinia. So, and that's a tough guy to tackle. But, he's somebody that's came in on the men's side and has really kind of continued to progress and do really well. You know, and on the women's side, oh man, we got a cast of folks. I think Riley Midget is another girl from New Mexico who's coming in and doing really well, who's contributing points. And then she's been here, but Minerva Serta is somebody who's just I call her a little pit bull. You know, she's tough and she runs hard, and she's somebody that came in and she took she took fourth, I believe, or third. She took third in the pole vault and broke the school record, and then came in and anchored a 46 leg force in the 4x4, a 56 leg force in the 4x4 to help unseat the school record for that women's 4x4. So, you know, she's somebody that came in and really kind of stepped up and is really having a good year. So.
Well, Coach, a highlight of the spring is going to be the fact that we get to host the Lone Star Conference Track and Field Championships. And when is it? And is it a 3-day format?
Yeah, so it's going to be May 1st through the 3rd. It is a 3-day format, so it's going to be action all 3 days. Of course, that championship day is that last day on Saturday. You know, so, you know, we get to host, and it's always an honor to do that, you know, especially being in one of the toughest conferences in the country for track and field. So we're hoping that we can, you know, put on a great atmosphere and host a very competent and very, very good flowing meet. We're excited about it. You know, and our athletic administration is on board and excited about it too. We've been meeting about it, you know, since the summer. So, you know, we're ecstatic for it, and it should have a good showing, and we should have a lot of fireworks.
I know that when we held the conference championships last time, there was a call to the members of the community that if anybody could volunteer some time to like pick up the hammer and bring it back, you know, over the side. Yeah. Do we have it covered, or do you think there'll be a call this year?
So we're definitely still going to reach out. You know, many hands make light work is what I always say. So, you know, we're definitely open to anybody who wants to come out and help. And then of course it's easy front row seats to, you know, if you don't have a great understanding of track, or if you like track and, you know, you want to have, you know, in the midst action, you know, which is I always think track is better up close. So, you know, we definitely are open to having those people that want to come out and volunteer and, you know, be hands-on and be involved and be a part of the championship. And we welcome them.
In a conference championship, you don't need to get everybody winning first place, but you need the 4th place, 5th place, and 6th place, which usually boils down to depth. And how are we depth-wise?
So, I mean, like I said, we had a lot of new faces. I think we had about 40 last year. We're up to 74 in the team. We have 34 women and around 40 guys. So, depth is there, you know. Being a young team, though, too, you know, sometimes we got to make sure we get all the stressors out of the way, you know, with those early meets. And I think we kind of showed that this year, this indoor season, being able to have the people there. You know, we just got to be able to execute on that moment, you know, and in that day and on that jump, or in that throw. So, you know, we have, you know, some depth this year that we haven't had in previous years, and, you know, we just really want to put it together. So we're working hard to do that. You know, I mean, we took 3rd last year on the women's side, which was big for the program. I think this is the first time a women's program has ever taken top 4.
It is.
You know, in school history. So, you know, our returners have their eyes set on that, you know, and that's our goal. And, you know, we have some kids who are big outdoor kids. So, you know, we're excited for them to get into the fold and to be able to try and do that or accomplish more.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the success that we had last year. Let's hope this year it's even better.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Amanda Fiefel right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and to bring back to the set of SportsLook the head coach of Greyhound softball, Amanda Fiefel. And Coach, your ladies coming off a victory against the number 18 team in the nation.
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Doc. Yeah, that was an exciting win for us. I think the first game of that doubleheader, we didn't show up. We weren't firing on all cylinders. But, I mean, when you play a team that caliber in the conference, you know, you really got to show up and do a lot of things right. So that second game, I think we did everything right.
It was a weekend that saw you play 2 games against Cameron, and you were just sailing along in game one of that doubleheader. You had a 2-0 lead. Your pitcher was working on a no-hitter, and like 3 batters later, your no-hitter's gone, and so is your lead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's the way it goes in the conference. Again, we have to show up every inning, every out, and we constantly preach to the girls, 21 outs in an inning is a normal softball game. And so for us, it's very imperative that we focus on the first out and the last out of every inning. I think if you notice, a lot of our blunders come when we have 2 outs. It's not the first out, it's not the second out, it's literally 2 outs. That third out is probably the most imperative, and sometimes we just kind of hiccup on that 2-out situation that we can't really get out of, and it hurts us sometimes.
There was one of the games this weekend where that was clearly the case, where your pitcher struck out the first 2 batters, and then okay, I'm going to try and hit spots, and next thing you know, the bases are loaded to walks and the big fly, as the expression goes.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's, walks, hit batters, errors, those are the things in a game that's really going to hurt you. But fundamentally, I think we have a solid team overall. But on the pitching staff right now, it's really important for us to get ahead, strike one, making sure that we're in control of the zone, really hitting it as far as what the umpire wants. Again, it changes game to game, right? Whatever the umpire prefers. And so it's really important for our pitchers to establish that zone and really attack it.
Let's talk a little bit about your pitching staff. One young lady I remembered quite well from last year, Marissa, coming back. A couple of new pitchers.
Yeah, so Marissa is kind of our returning pro, if you will, in our roster. She has been here the longest as far as consecutive years on staff, and so this is our 3rd year. She's a junior for us. And then we have right now on staff also Miranda Gillen. She's a freshman out of El Paso. She was the one you were referring to, kind of moving along with that no-hitter. We also have Sierra Smith. She is also a freshman from the Arizona area. Maggie Smith, who is a senior from California. Jordan Rivera is a junior from the Las Cruces area. And then we also have Sierra Loken, that is a sophomore from California as well. So different looks, all possess different attributes in the circle for us. So it's good to have different looks when it's coming from, both sides of the plate.
Let's talk a little bit about Jordan. She pitched an exceptionally good game, 4-1 record right now. She, to me, to my untutored eye, she looks like a much different pitcher this year than last year. What's the difference?
I think confidence, honestly. She transferred in mid-year last year. And so going through those changes of not being able to work out with, myself that handles the pitching and kind of like our philosophy when it comes to in-game routine. And then I think just establishing herself within the staff. And so I think it's been really important for her to really understand like our approach to pitching and how we want it done here versus the program she came from. And then also on the side of that is just over the summer, I think maybe just getting in there, fine tuning some things for her, and then being able to come here and put it to use in the fall. I think, I've really seen some strides for her as well. Going from that maturity level from no longer being a transfer, but really kind of leading as one of our older pitchers on staff.
It's interesting if you just looked at her previous school, which was Francis Marion University, which is in South Carolina. It's like, how did she get to Port Townsend, New Mexico? But then if you look one step further, she's a New Mexico kid who came back into the state.
Funny story, actually. I recruited her when I first got here out of high school. And so same thing, she played on a select team that traveled pretty much everywhere across the states. And so she was able to kind of find her way to South Carolina, but, close contacts and having that good relationship with in-state coaches and things of that nature, just getting a phone call and like, hey, a name kind of popped back up into my phone and we kind of reestablished that conversation. But I think that also goes back to, not burning bridges in the recruiting process and really keeping in contact with those players. But yeah, couldn't be happier to get her back here into New Mexico.
Well, let's shift over to offense. Offensively, you didn't score very many runs the first game against Cameron. You scored a bunch, and then you scored a bunch against Oklahoma Christian. We've got highlights of those games, so let's cue up the highlight reel and walk us through those 2 games.
So this is against Cameron. Obviously, we're down here. Alondra Vasquez there at the plate put a nice little Nice little hurting on the ball. I think that actually might have tied up the game.
It did.
With that swing right there. She is by far probably coming around the hottest with her bat right now. This is Ramona Fossum. She is actually a transfer for us, transfer senior in her 5th year. Another long ball right there. So both of them obviously power in our lineup, 4 or 5 hitters, kind of back to back. Have Alondra again here. Ball out over the outer part of the plate, really gets a good swing there. I think this is bottom of the 7th. We were a little behind, but again, pushing it to the limit, right? One swing of the bat changed the game. I think it tied it up to 9 to 10 in that inning. Again, 2 outs and forcing more runs there. Ramona, again, this is actually the first run of our 2nd game against Oklahoma Christian when we actually won that. And so this was the first run of that ball game in total, put us on the board.
Yep, a New Mexico kid,
Yes,
Mescalero Apache
yes.
High School.
I'm glad she's starting to find her swing. Jordan here at the end, obviously just getting good contact. Alondra making a great play defensively over by the fence, getting a big out there with runners in scoring position, obviously really helping us to get out of that jam there. Then we have Alondra here again. I think she's another one that puts us up 3-0 here. I think she hits another long ball. Actually, no, she blooped that one in, but another run scored, I should say. So put us on the board 2-0. Jordan Rivera again here pitching, bases loaded situation. Again, fundamental defense is the biggest thing we're looking for to get out of those innings. 2 outs, like I said, a lot of pressure on us in that situation. Val beating out a base hit here on the infield. Again, pressure on them. 2 outs. Our runners were in motion. Laney was stealing a base at that point, and we scored another run to put it 3-0 or 4-0. 4-0. Christina, this is another big bat that I'm very happy with right now. She's another freshman from the Arizona area. Tacked on a couple more insurance runs, if you will, for us going into the later part of the game. This was the bottom of the 6th, so it really helped with our pitching staff being able to get some insurance. And then obviously this play right here, line drive right back at Jordan. I think the ball actually found her glove. I don't think she knew where that was, but I think the ball perfectly found her glove there to make the last out of the game against Oklahoma Christian.
One thing that really impressed me was the 2 home runs that Ramona hit. Mm-hmm. She had 2 strikes on her.
Yes.
And she hit the long ball, so obviously she's a young lady that can make adjustments within a bat itself.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, right? You know, I don't think a lot at this level, caliber-wise, with the swings, we don't need them to adjust inning to inning. We need them to adjust pitch to pitch. And I think it's very important for them to understand approach at the plate and what pitchers are throwing, kind of what their go-to is. You got 2 strikes. Hey, are they going big away? Are they going changeup? So, you know, philosophy at the plate right now has been huge for us. Just, you know, watching a lot of film, kind of getting the pitcher's tendencies. I think that's been a huge part of our success this year.
Well, because I know you socially, I asked you this question after the doubleheader, and so I'm going to ask it on TV so everybody can hear the answer. Who's the player that really has improved the most from last year's squad to this year's squad?
Yeah, I think honestly, I kind of took a minute, a long pause when you originally asked me that. But I think for me, I think it's a lot of different people, but I think the one that I'm most proud of is probably Valeria Contreras. She is our shortstop, 5th-year senior shortstop. If you were to look at years prior, offensively, she was not at the top of her game. She was very much a spray hitter for us, very sound on the defensive side of things. I think this year, she's kind of both sides of the ball, which I've been very, very happy with. We've moved her from kind of the middle of the lineup up to our 2-hole. I think she is producing a lot. Her on-base percentage is very high. And so I think just her quality at bats have really helped our lineup turnover as well. So if I had to say anyone, it would be Val.
A young lady that I just love watching is Grace Rafi. I've never seen her take a pitch off, no matter what the score is. She is talking to the pitchers, she's talking to her defense, and just gotta love her attitude.
Yeah, she's a high energy kid, but I think her passion is top of the line. If you were to be at practice right now, it's never an off day for her. I think the enthusiasm, the grit, the passion that she has, it definitely portrays from practice to game. And I think that's one of the things coming from, again, a senior leadership. You need them upperclassmen to kind of, support and stay positive and, whether we lose, win, or draw. I think that's the biggest thing for us is just that energy and passion constantly going from, one side of the ball to the other, whether it's practice or game. She's a big presence in our dugout for sure.
It is midterm time at the university, and so let's ask you to give a midterm grade. Of the aspects of the game, base running, fielding, pitching, hitting, what grades out the highest?
I think in the fall we had this conversation and I was super excited for our pitching staff. And then I think offensively, I thought we were going to take our hiccups. I would say our run production right now, to be honest with you. And I think more specifically when we're behind. I think we have a different approach when we're behind. We're more aggressive. We're more into it versus playing with a lead. I know that sounds really backwards, but for me, I think I like to see that fight in them. And so I would say our offensive production is probably at the A caliber. I would like to see our defense, as I was saying, with the 2 outs to step a little bit up. So I would have to say not a C, but like a C in my mind to kind of get that grade average up, especially with the 2 outs.
Well, Coach, congratulations on beating the number 18 team in the nation. You're on a 1-game win streak. So let's hope that by the end of the season, we're still on that win streak.
Doc, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the interview portion of SportsLook. So we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. If the NBA season ended right now, the regular season, the Sacramento Kings would be in the playoffs. And it's been a long journey for them back to respectability, but not as long as their journey to where they are right now in Sacramento. They started out life in the NBA as the Rochester Royals. Then they became the Cincinnati Royals. Then they became the Kansas City Royals. Then they became the Kansas City Omaha Kings. And now they are the Sacramento Kings. So they have come a long way literally and a long way figuratively. Well, that will finish up in overtime, and that will finish up an episode of SportsLook. I'd like to thank my guests, Josh Harden and Amanda Fiefel. I'd like to thank my floor crew. Mr. Kyle was the director tonight. A reminder, we will be off next week because it is spring break. So for all those aforementioned people for 2 weeks, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.